Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg, episode 500. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that many years ago when I did episode 1? I don't remember exactly why I started Hanging with Mangg. I think at the time I just had like a lot of little stories I was telling and stuff. Things were happening somewhat. I was actually going out into the world on a relatively weekly basis. So I had things I wanted to share once in a while. And sharing that in the middle of like a random Let's Play, you know, a lot of people just kind of missed out on that. So I wanted just a weekly place to sum it up. Just chill. And then after a while, Hanging with Mangg became mostly a place to share like D&D recaps every week. Until it really just like took over the whole thing. And then I was like, okay, I need to do something alternative to this. So I started role-manging as another side thing. And now we've come back now to where there's not really... Well, actually, we have a role-manging now, but... Yeah, for a while then I went back to just sharing stuff on a weekly basis here. Yeah, crazy run, man. The first episode of Hanging with Mangg, I played Diablo 3, just because that's what I was playing at the time, of course. I kind of, you know, in hindsight, wish I would have picked something a bit more evergreen, so that I could keep coming back to it for, like, these milestones. But I don't want to play Diablo 3 right now, so whatever. So the first episode of Hanging with Mangg... 500 episodes ago. 9 years ago. 9 years. September 15th, 2014. So nearly 10 years ago. Yeah, good stuff. I mean, I don't have anything special to really do or say here. It's not that big of a deal. But yeah. I've been doing this a long time. So, obviously we're just playing a little Super Metroid here, because why not? Honestly, like, I have not been playing much of anything this week. Pretty much all of my time has been going towards crafting my RPG system and kind of just working on that. A lot of typing. I've typed so much. So much so, in fact, my obsession ran so deep this week that what should have been a one-part SCP video for tomorrow became 2 parts. So, there you have it. Do I have a favorite Metroid power-up? Oh, Like, when I get it, I'm like, oh, shit. This is it now. It's probably Speed Booster, I guess. Like, as a kid and even as an adult, every time I get it, it's like, fuck yeah, let's go. Followed somewhat closely by Space Jump, I suppose. At least in this game, where I somewhat understand how Space Jump works. So... that's what's going on with all that. This week, we have RimWorld, which is continuing. Assuming I get around to recording, playing some more of that. And we also, I started up an archipelago run, really just because I needed something to upload. And I was like, what's the most painless thing that I could do? And that was just a Super Metroid Time Spinner run. And on Two Brothers Play, we also started Archipelago, StarCraft 2, and Dark Souls 3. Which has so far been pretty painless. Here's the Hyper Beam. That's a good choice. I could agree with that. So yeah, you know, nowadays for this channel, I tend to just record what I'm interested in, what I'm doing. But mostly what I'm doing right now is just typing up an RPG rulebook. And that's not really that interesting, I don't think. I mean, I probably could do like a stream about it, but that's about it. So yeah, you know. It's funnily enough, I don't really have a backlog at this point. I have loads of videos, but I don't really want to upload anything. Except, you know, these old RimWorld videos. And I didn't think people really want to double RimWorld. One of these days, I'll try and get back to best games of all time. Remember that? Turns out Devil May Cry was really just a fucking hard stop on my interest of best games of all time. No, but I'm sure I'll get back into it and then I'll record like 40 of them and we'll be good. That's how I tend to do things. Over on the Exploring series, put out a video on Arachnid SCPs. To no one's real surprise, obviously not a huge mega hit. It did sit on my Patreon poll for over a year now. So, I knew it was never going to be that big of a hit. But that doesn't mean I won't do it. And then the SCP for this week is Maslow's Fire 8002, which ended up being 2 parts. So the first part's only like 31 minutes. But yeah, you know. And really, I would have preferred probably to just take like a week and a half or 2 weeks, you know, a week and a half to get it all done in one go and just give myself a few extra days to just be like, okay, let's get this done properly. But even if I, you know, make that known and all that and everything, there's going to be still just a flood of comments Monday morning. Where's the video? How come there's no video? You know, it's just... And then YouTube, the algorithm really just likes steady content on a schedule. So, whatever. You find the later Ridley fight to be the hardest boss of this game. I would agree, yes. Definitely the fight I have to be the most prepared for. But at least now, you know, with multi-part videos, I'm not like delaying Warhammer stuff or anything like that. It's just, yeah, that's your weekly dose of SCP. That's all good. I don't know if I got that one. And he canonically dies in this game. It gets cloned another M, which dies in the X infected infusion. You know, it's really funny. The common meme about Metroid is like people discovering that Samus is a girl and stuff like that, you know, related to that. And really, I just have the opposite issue. Like, I always just assumed Ridley was a female. Because, I mean, a lot of this game was inspired by, you know, Alien. And Aliens. And the final confrontation of Aliens is, you know, Ellen Ripley in, like, the mechanical powerlifter suit or whatever. And, you know, against the alien queen. And the whole, you know, get away from her, you bitch, kind of thing. So I just always assumed that the final confrontation... I mean, I guess you have Mother Brain, which is the female. I mean, there is that. I know. I just always kind of was like... Ridley was on the box. You know, Mother Brain isn't on the Super Metroid box. It's Ridley. And Ridley's pretty close to Ripley. And I just always assume Ridley is female. Anyways, we do have some more multi-part SCPs coming up. It's like a fun, big, probably gonna be 3-part, like, heist SCP from the 8K contest. So that'll be fun. It's funny how I have not covered 8,000 yet. I think this is the longest I've gone after a contest without covering the winner. And yeah, people, I guess, on Patreon are just not interested in the magical seal. Magical talking seal. Ridley coming back is a meme too, in a way. Yeah, that could be true. I don't really follow a lot of Metroid stuff. Mostly because the only one I play is Super Metroid. But I like the Game Boy Advance. And once those get added to the Archipelago randomizer, probably learn them a lot more. Anyways, let's talk about some RPGs. So, as discussed in the last solo role manging this week, I've been fastidiously working on a new system for myself, for my family and stuff. A Shadow of the Demon Lord hack, combined with Heroes of Adventure, called Shadows of Adventure. Been working on it a hell of a lot. And it's going pretty well. You know, we had our kind of first playtest on Thursday on stream. And then the next day, with my family all together, I did institute a switch over to the new system. I let them keep all their same kind of, you know, characters. We had the same campaign going. We picked up right where we left off. All pretty much everything the same, but we just converted it. And it did take a while for the actual conversion, for them to, like, you know, transfer everything on their sheets and read over the new stuff, and me to kind of teach some of the new rules. But we did eventually get going, and some progress was made there. So they did, for the most part, grok the changes. But it's going to take a little bit of time. Mostly, they seem to be struggling with banes and boons. Theoretically, and they were happy to hear that the only 2 dice in the new game is d20s and d6s. Those are the only 2 dice involved. But in practice, they got a little confused. Rolling d6s with their d20s, and then also using d6s for damage afterwards, and just kind of being all over the place. But yeah, that'll take time. So yeah, I've done a lot of work, both just like, you know, writing stuff out. Obviously, like I said, a lot of this is coming from Shadow the Demon Lord, so I don't have to do that much heavy lifting with rules. But I am changing some stuff, and I am kind of rewriting everything for my own purposes. And I've also spent a good amount of time formatting everything. I've been using Google... what is it called? What is this? It's one of those Google Doc sort of things. Google Slides is what it is. I've been using Google Slides. Just because it lets me specifically format for, like, a printer paper. Like, everything I put on that slide that I've sized to be the same size as a piece of paper, I know will print out on that piece of paper. And that doesn't sound that crazy, except I started with just Google Docs. Google Docs, for whatever reason, is fucking terrible when you're trying to just format things to be on, you know, I want this section of text to be on, you know, this page, and then I want this section of text to be on the next page. You'd think that it would be simple. You can set Google Docs to display, like, on page preview, so it shows you separate pages, and you'd think that, okay, then whatever text I put on this page will print out on this page. That is not the case. When I went to go print it, all of the pages and text was all fucked up and all over the place and would run on to different pages, and I hated it, so I switched over to Slides, which is infinitely better. Because I can actually then position text boxes, images, however I want. Like, if I was actually preparing this for print, this would be absolutely the way to go. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of work with formatting for, like, the class sheets. I want each class to be on one sheet and show, you know, their health, the attribute stuff, all of their abilities, their talent. It's a lot of text to put on one page. The font gets a little small, but I really wanted it to be one page each. But it looks pretty good now. You know, it's all white background. That's, like, one thing that isn't great, really, but I don't, you know, I'm not going to put a background into it. But I've got, you know, a picture of the class, like in Heroes Adventure, and nice, even boxes. Overall, it looks pretty good. I'm never going to publish this or even, you know, put it out there online or anything. Only personal use, but it looks good for personal use. So a lot of stuff I've been doing now is just fleshing out the bestiary, which has been a lot of fun. Because I've been looking at like the 13th Age bestiary, the D&D 5th edition bestiary. I've been looking online for other recommended stuff, and then just like converting that all to the new system and just being flexible with it and you know, saying that like this is my stat block, this is mine, you know, I own this. It's pretty cool. It's a fun process. And this new system, compared to Heroes of Adventure, a lot more flexible, a lot more fleshed out with the stat blocks. I can do a lot of fun little things to make players' lives horrible. So, gonna be good. So yeah, so we didn't really do a whole lot of playing this week then. On Solo World Manging, you know, we followed the group of mercenaries over to the Hellbug nest, and they kind of met their match. They actually ended up getting slaughtered. But Malkalon swooped in afterwards and cleaned up the remnants using his new spells, laid down a minefield. And, yeah, then he looted the bodies. And I probably actually gave myself a bit too much money from that. I think probably they wouldn't all have 1d6 silver. The Demon Lord rulebook actually advises that for each adventure from levels 1 to 3 for your players, at the end of each adventure, they should have earned, at most, 1 gold piece, which is 10 silver. And I just gave myself 23 silver, so yeah, probably a bit much. My adding monsters are just rearranging stats and such. I'm adding monsters. The Demon Lord stat block, or the Demon Lord bestiary, is a bit too grim and kind of leaning towards, like, you know, really a lot of horrifying, dark, evil stuff, and I want more standard fantasy. A little bit more standard fantasy. Heroes of Adventure bestiary is kind of all over the place and has just a lot of weird stuff. There's like a lot of just like stationary construct monsters. Just like I don't know. And then D&D bestiary has a lot of stuff that's very specifically for the D&D setting, you know. A lot of creatures that I just don't have any interest in running or putting in my game. So I've just been taking from a lot of different places and just making it all in one system that I'm like, yep, if I want an aboleth, I have the stats for an aboleth, you know. If I want a stat block for a fungal creeper from 13th Age, I have that in my system. And the 13th Age bestiary so far has been, like, the most interesting one. So I've been taking a lot from that. And yeah, it's a fun process. And then, you know, it's going to be kind of like, as I go, like, oh, I want stats for this kind of creature, I should put that in. But if nothing else, this process is making me very well accustomed to creating stat blocks. So that's good. And during Thursday night, we did make a couple of rule adjustments on the fly to the system. And again, as the sole creator of this hack, I can do that at will. And after Friday night's RPG session, I did make more adjustments based on not really feedback, but just like my observations of how people were doing some things. And so one of the major ones was I completely changed the Beastmaster's talent. Yeah, my sister Every character she has ever played and ever will play almost certainly will be a Beastmaster. She's very big on animals. She always wants to have an animal companion. So, the class in the new system was pretty much made with her in mind. But the first run of the talent was just... if you and your animal companion attack the same creature in the same round, you both, get bonuses. The problem was, as I quickly observed, actually adjudicating that. Because there's the fast turn, slow turn thing. And if she wants to go fast, and shoot with her bow, but the animal needs to go slow so it can move and bite, does she get the bonus just for her first attack, even though the animal hasn't done anything yet, and the monster's gonna, like, move, and the monster might be dead by that point? Does she still get a bonus? Like, it just seemed wonky. And I tried making some adjustments on the fly during the game. Like, they both had to go at the same turn, but that's really not great for her. Because she didn't really want to go slow all that time. So I just told her, like, this is going to get changed. I'm just telling you right now, this is going to get changed. I did not think about the system when I made this. So now I reworked it, and basically she just gets, like, a personal super animal companion that levels with her. So she can choose kind of all aspects of its design, with DM approval. It can be up to size 2, even at level 1. So if you want, like, if you want, like, a rhino or something, or a dire wolf, they're all going to have the same stats, pretty much regardless of what you pick. And you're just going to have to kind of accept that you might have a rhino that's as strong as a dog. But, it's a magical creature. It's a magical creature that just looks like what you're describing. That's basically what it is. And, so it gets scaling buffs as you level up. And that's basically it. It's not very fancy, but neither was the other version, and it just is a lot simpler. I imagine many players, if they pick this, would go with a size 2 creature, because you can mount it then, and ride it around. But there are benefits to going with, like, I don't know, a bird. That bird will do as much damage as a dire wolf. And it can also fly. It's not a perfect solution, but it's like, again, this class is pretty much designed for her. I'm probably never going to play a Beastmaster, and almost certainly no one else at the table will. So, it's just... as long as she's happy, I don't really care. Also... my brother, he picked... so he's playing a Crusader. And one of the magic domains that he went with was life. So he's got life magic. And one of the level 0 life magic spells that you get is Life Sense. And you can use this at will. And it will detect any living creatures within 15 feet of you. You will know their location. And I didn't really think about it much. I mean, it is a spell in Shadow of the Demon Lord. I didn't think about it much, making it an at-will spell that you can cast. But he used it, like, obsessively. Like, when they were not in combat, he used this just every second. that he could just spam life sense to look through walls or into the next room and see if there were creatures there. Now, it didn't work completely well because they were in Thunder Tree still, where there's a lot of zombies, and it didn't detect that. But it did actually prevent them from getting ambushed by a bunch of twig blights. And so... yeah, I mean, yeah, he just kept using it, and it's not a matter of, like, brokenness. I don't care about that as much. It's more just, like, you typically want to fix anything that your players will spam obsessively. Even if it's, like, not that big of a deal. It just gets old, you know? It's sort of the same thing of, like, searching for traps. And, you know, it's like, okay, we have entered a new hallway. We've entered a new room. We've gone to a new door. Whatever. I search for traps. I search for traps. That one's a harder problem to fix. But anything like that where you just, like, okay, we need to stop this spam. So I changed Life Sense. And now can only be used once per hour. But it extends out to 60 feet instead. So, definitely not going to be able to spam it. You'll be able to use it plenty of times per day. But it's going to be more like when you really need it. Or when you really want to know if something's in the next room. As opposed to just, I use Life Sense. I use Life Sense. I use Life Sense. Because 15 feet isn't that far, but you're just spamming it in the hopes that you might catch something. Whereas 60 feet, yeah, you're probably going to know what's in the next room, if there's anything alive there. But you'll say it once. So there was that. There were some other changes I made. Even stuff I changed that people aren't playing as. My adventurer talent, the first talent I wrote was basically they get a new profession every other level to show that they're really, like, you know, well-traveled and kind of jack of all trades sort of thing. That ended up, when I was rereading, I was like, no one's gonna pick this class. This is garbage. This is so boring. So yeah, I changed it. I took the aptitude ability from the Explorer Master Path in Demon Lord. So now I think after a rest you get a certain number of aptitude points, and you can use those throughout the day to, like, give yourself boons or to give other people boons on whatever actions you want. Stuff like that. That seemed to just fit better, be more fun, more engaging, improved. Overall, the session with my family, it went pretty easily. They're still in Thunder Tree, which I'm basically just, you know, running it kind of as is for D&D. Combats were pretty simple, although they did avoid going into the building unknowingly that had 12 zombies in it, 12 ash zombies, which would be a pretty rough encounter for them. I'm hesitant if I want to change it or not. I was listening to a podcast, which I almost never do. This is quite shocking. Very well-spoken guy. I kind of wish I had his microphone set up. And now I feel like I need to actually name drop the podcast, otherwise this is unfair. I have to Google it now. Hold on. Okay, so the podcast is called RPG Mainframe. The YouTube channel it's on is Runehammer. So I don't know how it's represented elsewhere, but yeah, RPG mainframe. So I was listening to a podcast from him, and he stated that balance is a false god. You know, this idea that we kind of worship when designing or DMing or things like that, that everything needs to be balanced. Everything needs to be balanced for the players. Everything needs to be a balanced encounter. No thing should be more or less powerful than another thing at any given time. Stuff like that. Oh god. And I can definitely agree with that. And obviously that's a very OSR mentality. And I think it's a mentality that probably plenty of players go into a game sort of thinking. I think it's one that for a while I kind of eschewed as a player. You know, back in D&D 4th edition days, playing the game, our weekly game, you know, with our weekly DM, all that stuff, and we encountered a dragon in a not in a dungeon, but we encounter a dragon. It was not my first thought upon encountering said dragon that, oh shit, we're fucked, that's a dragon, we need to get the hell out of here. It was more my first thought at the time, oh, it's a dragon, this will be a fun encounter that's balanced for our level. This is probably, you know, like a young adult dragon that's level 7, so it should be a reasonable encounter for us. But when I first started playing D&D in this whole wide world of unknown things, it's like, oh shit, that's a dragon, I'm fucked. You know? And that mentality should remain. There should be things that you are just kind of scared of as a player and as a character that are just unknown to you, because the game shouldn't be balanced. And that's certainly a common complaint about, like, Skyrim or Oblivion. You know, the world just kind of scales to you, so nothing's ever that frightening. But it's like, I'm setting the players up now with, like, a portal to hell. And it's like, if you jump into the portal to hell and go to hell, you will not find balanced encounter. That is ridiculous. So, the counter argument to that is that my players are generally quite stupid and inept, and they will not understand the level of danger presented to them because they for one have no real, like, video gamey knowledge outside of Lego of understanding what things might be a big threat and what might not be. But then they're also not just, like, intelligent enough to assume and to know that they're unknowledgeable, you know? So they'll just kind of run headlong into threats, while also, like, ignoring or bypassing things that are really not threats just because they think they're I don't know. They're all over the place. So fortunately, we do have Lego there now, who is video gamey, does understand the threat that certain things pose, and can kind of guide him along. That is a big help now. It hurts the feeling of adventure if you never get in over your head, but I understand why it'd be necessary for my family. Yes. And they are very, it's tough. It's a very divided group, honestly. That's one of the major issues overall. You have Lego now, who is pretty video gamey. He certainly treats the thing a lot like just playing Baldur's Gate 3. You have my brother-in-law, who mostly just wants to get into combat and hit things with his big hammer, or his big axe, or whatever, you know, and just wants to unga bunga smash things, because he likes that, and doesn't really want to do much, like, talking or going into towns and stuff. Then you have my mom and my sister, who are very sort of just, like, in it for the story, and they want to encounter little leprechauns and have fanciful conversations with a dwarf, you know, and they don't really care that much about combat. They don't want anything bad to go wrong. They don't want anyone to die, of course. And even, like, I think we were doing a combat and I had some ash zombies and they were releasing an ash cloud when they were attacked. And my sister's dog companion was in the radius. And I was like, okay, well, you're going to need to roll for, you know, to see if it, you know, can shrug off the effects of the ash cloud. And my mom was just like, can't it just do it? You know, why do we have to roll? Like that sort of mentality. Then you have my aunt and my nephew, who are both kind of like chaos gremlins, who just kind of want to cause trouble and steal things and, you know, just be general nuisances. Right now, my aunt is playing an intersex barbarian. And then, you know, my nephew really is the only magic caster, the only kind of wizardly character of the group, and is really into magic, but can't really grasp all the rules related to magic, and is also very easily frustrated. So it's just a rough kind of composition here. But they all love it. I mean, overall, they all love RPG night, and they cannot wait for each week. So, you know, it is what it is. Oh, I didn't get Ice Beam. Oh, yeah, that's gonna be essential. Yeah. So, they encountered some cultists, and they chatted with the cultists. And, of course, these are dragon cultists that worship dragons, and they weren't really hiding that fact. But the group decided they didn't really want to kill the cultists, they weren't really doing anything wrong, and they're very hesitant to take on the dragon. They are very scared of the dragon, which is good, because the dragon will fuck them up, although with the new system, there is a way that they could easily kill the dragon in 4 turns, assuming one character got slightly lucky. And I'm not going to tell them how to do that unless they use their question for God and specifically ask. But as I noted when I first put it in, The arcane magic domain is fairly powerful with its, like, magic missile spell. 15 guaranteed damage a turn is pretty good. But anyways. So they basically spent their time killing some more twig blights and ash zombies, and we got used to the system a little bit. And then they asked the question for God, they asked, because they get one per session, was... Lego was upset last week, because he asked an earnest question, and I gave a very, simple one-word answer that, was of course the obvious answer, but that's what he asked. So, this week, he decided to try and game the system and ask a very loaded question. I think his question was, how do we make the most profit from a situation in which we either kill, capture, or ally ourselves with the dragon? That was his question. And so, I answered it. I said killing it would be the least profitable, capturing it would be slightly more profitable. And allying itself would, of course, be the most profitable over the course of the next 100 years or so for all of your characters and your families. But that would involve, right now, bringing it copious amounts of food in order to keep it fed and happy, and then becoming its completely willing servants in all of its activities for the next 100 years. I mean, that's my honest answer if you're going to ask me that kind of question. If all you're concerned with is profit, which is a really weird question for the crusader of the group to ask me. I would have expected him to ask something like, is the dragon going to do evil activities that I need to put a stop to in order to prevent atrocities or something? It's like, well, yes, Not, how do I get the most money out of this thing? But last week, at the end of last week, they heard a massive explosion to the far south. And so, of course, this week, they had a character return, and he had witnessed the explosion. So he told them that the mountains nearby Phandalin, along with the town of Phandalin, has exploded. And all that remains is a massive crater. And at the base of which he saw a dark portal. So my plan, which is, already kind of fleshed out a little bit, is that pretty soon, probably this coming week, they will go to the crater. And they will find there a wizard. A wizard wearing a suit and a cloak. And this wizard's name is, of course, Artemis, because I can't resist my little self-inserts. So Artemis is a very powerful wizard, high level. And he explains what exactly the portal is. It is a portal to hell. But I don't want to call it hell, because it's a little overused. So, of course, I just stole more stuff, because that's all I do. I don't have any original bones in my body. But I stole the names from the new Doom lore. So the actual name of hell in Doom lore now is called Jakad. So that's what I went with for being my sort of version of hell. And then there are multiple spells in Demon Lord that I copy-pasted that mention hell and mention the underworld. And I guess it's sort of a Greek... I think overall it's a Greek mythology. Because the Greeks have The Greeks had Hades. And then they had, if I recall correctly, and if anyone knows more about Greek mythology, you can tell me. Originally, the Greeks had, like, one afterlife. They just had one afterlife. And regardless of who you were in life or how you died or anything like that, you went to this one afterlife where you just, like, trudged along eternally. And that was the afterlife. But then later they were like, wait a minute. You're saying this murder, pedophile, animal rapist, he gets to go to the same afterlife as me, even though I've been a good person my whole life? This ain't right. This ain't right at all. And so that's when things got divided a bit more. And we got, like, Hades and Elysium and some other stuff. I don't know if Elysium is Greek. I'm sure it's Roman, but I don't know if it's also Greek. But so Shadow of the Demon Lord mentions Hell. It mentions Elysium, like, once. Or a couple times. And then it mentions the underworld. And so if you die with, like, a corrupted soul, you go to hell. If you die normally, you go to the underworld. And then if you die pretty much with the favor of the gods, you go to Elysium or something like that. So I kept Elysium as it is. That's fine. I changed Hell to Jakad, as mentioned. And then for the Underworld, I changed that, and I was like, okay, well, the other big kind of location in Doom mythology is Urdak. So I just called the Underworld Urdak. And that's kind of where you're going to end up, unless you're evil. If I was actually publishing this, I would not steal things like that, obviously. But this is for just personal use, and none of my family will know that stuff. So it's perfectly fine. So anyways, Artemis will tell them that it's a portal to Jakad. The dark underworld. And it is currently leaking demonic energy, which will begin to mutate the surrounding flora and fauna. Because obviously I just want more excuses to put hell bugs in. Because now I've statted out hell wasps, and they are fucking vicious, man. Don't you worry. I'm sure we'll encounter some on Thursday. So Artemis does know and is capable of casting a ritual spell that can close the portal permanently. But to aid the ritual and make it, you know, much more likely to complete, as well as not cost him his life, he would require a number of components, like kind of rare components that he can't just pick up at the grocery store. And so he enlists the players, the party, to go around and collect all this. And he's going to give them a time limit of 1 month. And he's going to be clear that, like, whatever components they do manage to get, they should bring back within the time limit. Because some are better than none. If he has none, he will still do the ritual, but he will likely die in the process. Because I think it's fairly unlikely that the players do get all of the components in 1 month. That would be tricky even if I was playing. But we'll see. And if they do manage to get all the components, and do the ritual. I mean, I'll give them a bonus for sure. But most likely they'll just get a handful of them, and it'll just be, you know, a little tough for the ritual, but somewhat doable. So, I had to then come up with a list of, you know, big ritual components for them to go around and gather. So that was interesting. I wanted stuff that wasn't like completely insane. I didn't want to do like the whole metaphysical thing where they need to get like, you know, a song, a bird song or something, you know, or just like the laugh of a dying man, or, you know, I didn't want to really do much of that because that's just, my players are not that clever where they would come up with fun ways around all that. So I wanted a lot of physical stuff they could carry. And again, stuff that they couldn't just go to a shop for the most part and buy. Probably some of these things they could maybe find in shops if they poke around. But yeah, you know, by and large, no. So the list that I came up with: 3 dragon scales, color irrelevant. So conveniently, they are right near a dragon, and if they, you know, come up with some way, they might be able to get some scales from it, either stealing scales while it's sleeping, or killing it, taking the scales, or perhaps coming to some sort of bargain for it. Who knows? That's up to the players. 1 red cap. I really want them to encounter red caps, because I really want to run that encounter. So I just want to have just 1 cap, so they have 1 encounter with red caps. I want to put that in there. 30 ogre teeth. You know, standard, find some ogres, fight some ogres. Most likely that's going to be the result. 1 emerald, at least a pound. So an emerald that weighs at least 1 pound. Which, again, is kind of a tricky thing. I don't know where they're going to get it. That's not my responsibility to know these things. 30 ounces of iron shavings. This is something that they almost certainly could buy at any sort of blacksmith or probably alchemist as well. So that's a very purchasable thing. The next one, though, the breath of a dying man. So this one sort of leans toward the metaphysical, but it is something that they could absolutely capture. They could find a guy or make a guy die, and while he's dying, you know, just have him breathe into a jar or something. 3 crimson mountain lilies. So these are just some, like, kind of rare flowers that grow on a certain mountain range nearby that they could try and find. Forces them to go up a mountain. And then the other thing is the opposite. A jar of spores from a fungal hulk. So this is a specific kind of powerful type of fungaloid creature that's located underground. They'll have to go fairly far underground, but I'm picturing that, like, the fungal empire of all these fungaloid creatures basically spreads kind of across the globe. Like, if you go, it's kind of like Blackreach, I guess. If you go deep enough anywhere, you will probably encounter the fungaloid empire, which is all connected. So anywhere they kind of go, anywhere they find to go underground deep enough, they'll enter there, and they'll probably have to fight some fungaloids for a while before they find a fungal hulk. But since this whole empire is kind of connected and networked, if one place is attacked, you know, the whole empire knows. So it won't be long before a fungal hulk comes, and then they'll probably want to get out of there. And for all these kind of things, like, there'll be, like, intellect checks and stuff if they want to try and recall information about, okay, what's a fungal hulk? Where do I find it? Like, that information will be made available to them, most likely. One other thing that seems pretty metaphysical is 1 mermaid's kiss. And I didn't have any thought other than just, like, I want them to go kind of out into the ocean and find a mermaid. So I wrote mermaid's kiss, and I'm like, I don't want it to actually be a kiss, though. I want it to be, I don't know, some sort of bauble or something that they all have. And I have not, again, I've not thought it out. This may never even come up if they don't go out into the ocean before a month is up. Like, who knows? But something that all mermaids have, that they might think is just a kiss, but is actually like a small trinket. Then 6 chul eggs. So chuls are pretty cool. I've never ran them. I've never even fought against them. I've never had a DM use them. They are in the D&D 5th edition manual, which I was surprised to see. But they're also in the 13th Age Bestiary. So that's the version I'm kind of using. Basically, they're like sapient crab. They're basically sapient crabs, more or less, that have just a deep-seated hatred of all humanoids. And their origin is pretty unknown, like where they came from, why they hate humanoids, but they do. And they're intelligent, so they actually plan like ambushes, they set traps, things like that. And yeah, any humanoids that kind of approach their region better watch out. But they're also a target because their eggs, the eggs that they lay either grow into new chuls, or they actually grow into magical items. So plenty of foolhardy adventurers try and go into chul lairs and stuff to try and steal the eggs, because they're just magical items. And so that leads a number of them to kind of becoming chul slaves that are just like covered in like these like remnants of magical items and stuff. And so they get like, they're kind of mutated somewhat. They get like acidic saliva and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, 6 chul eggs. And then the last item is 1 glass of fresh chilled cow's milk. And I just wrote it down there, and it's going to be kind of up to the players to decide if they think that Artemis is just fucking with them, or if they think that's actually a key component of the ritual. And I guess I'll probably go with whatever's the opposite of what they think. Like, if they think that it's serious, it's probably just going to be for him to drink and he was fucking with them. But if they think it's a joke, he'll be like, "You didn't bring the cow's milk?" Something like that. So that's the list. Is it all doable within a month? Yeah. Is it going to be easy to do in a month? No, absolutely not. I mean, you're climbing a mountain, you're going underground, you're going out to the ocean, you're fighting ogres, trolls, your redcaps, possibly a dragon, the breath of a dying man. You gotta find a emerald that weighs at least a pound. I mean, it's varied. So this is kind of the big arc of the campaign here. And then that will lead to the big ritual at the end, where they will have to defend Artemis as he casts this lengthy ritual, and the forces of Jakad rise up out of the portal against them. So I'll be able to use hellbugs and demons and all that sort of fun stuff. So that should be pretty good. Or they'll get distracted and a month will go by and they'll never return, and then, you know, Artemis will do the ritual and die, and that'll be it. I don't know. But after that, probably I'll start them over at level 1. Maybe? We'll see. I just did start them over at level 1, technically. But they've been playing, like, these same characters for months now, out of game. Across, like, 3 different systems. So we'll see. We'll see how that all goes. Alright, anyways. That's enough jibber-jabbing for the 500th episode. We got more RimWorld this week, some more Archipelago this week. SCP-8002 Part 1 over on the Exploring series. Should all be good stuff. But for now... Did I see Late Night with the Devil? No, I'm waiting to watch that with some friends, but I'm very excited to watch it. For now, my name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. And I'll see you fine folks next week.